Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw down a little bit of an acrylic base on it. Just a steel color, nothing special. Just a demo. I don't really care what the color looks like. It doesn't matter. You can see we're just putting a metal color on it. Yeah, you can actually see that. You can actually see, I didn't put this on thick. You can actually see a little bit of black actually coming through. It's darker. If I put that on, if you put metal on a color without putting a black undercoat, it works fine, but it's got a different look. Like if you remember, we did this aluminum with this staining on here. Before I did that stain, that had a black undercoat under it also. I normally run that. It's a good practice to do it. I don't know why it enhances metal colors. It just does. I'm not sure exactly what it is that does that. But it's something about that dark base. It just helps. I forgot to bring the extension cord like an idiot. But that's what happens. You wait till the last minute. You're like, oh yeah, there's a demo tonight. Let me get my stuff together. All right, so you can start with whatever colors you want. You can sit here and look at this and be like, usually reference photos are the best, but I'm going to start with a little bit of bluing on the outside, and we'll do a little bit of purple maybe somewhere down in here. The reason I use the MiG-29 exhaust, if you ever seen American aircraft, they don't blue. Everybody wants to build an F-15 and F-16 and make it all these layers of blues and purple. Show me when it looks like that. They don't look like that. American aircraft, boring. Sorry, they are. If you want to build a Russian-built aircraft, I don't know what it is about their burn cans, but they are really cool. They look like a Harley exhaust, and they're really great modeling opportunities because of that. Because they look like that. It's cool to model them. It must be the metal or something. I don't know. I love it. They can keep making them because they look cool. Even the Su-57, the Felon, the brand new plane, does the same exact thing. They're stealth plane that's not stealth. It does the same thing. It's like I joked last week when I said that it's so stealthy you've never seen one in combat. And there's a reason for that. So, all right. We'll just get a little bit of bluing. Now, the trick here when you do bluing is you don't want to go crazy with it. So I can get the light down in here. Maybe let's turn up. See the little button there? Look, Clint, on this. Right, there's a plus button.
Yeah, I see it.
There you go. Perfect. Yep. All right. So when we start doing this bluing, what I'm going to do is just start working on the edge, just very light passes. I don't want this to build up fast, because what will happen is you'll go crazy and this thing will look ridiculous. It's just getting a little tiny tint of blue on the end of it. You just see it. Now I'm going to make one more quick pass. What you're trying to do is when you put this on, you don't want opacity. You don't want to put this on and it looks like this cap, or it's ridiculous. You'll see jets that look like that. You go to a show and you're like, hey, we're a little heavy on the burn. You guys can look at that real fast. Just pass it around super quick. You'll see what I'm saying. Yeah, now I'm using Alclads tonight, but you can use any lacquer-based or acrylic-based. Tamiya makes really nice tints, blue. They work fine too. I just didn't have any. I had red. I didn't have anything else. So that's why I bought these Alclads. I actually forgot I had these things. I bought them at one point. I hardly even used them. Yeah. So here's another trick too, guys. If you want to do bluing and you don't want to use an airbrush, you can achieve bluing beautifully. Have you ever seen Micron pens? Drafting pens? They come in 0.1. Buy yourself a blue, a purple one, and you can get the same effect. Those Micron pens are a permanent, they're almost an ink base, like a funny alcohol ink. You can sit there and just scrub it on, take a brush. They'll sit there for about 2 minutes before they dry, and you can blend it. It'll look perfect. It'll look beautiful. You can do the same thing with canopies. You know how...
Do you dry brushing with it?
No, you're just going to basically blend it. Okay. You just sit there and distort it a little to kind of make it blend and get rid of the hard edges. Okay. It'll look just like this. Yeah, you can do the same thing with canopies. You guys have tinted canopies on helicopters, or the green or the orange. You could sit there and spray real carefully. That's what I normally do. But if you don't want to do that, you can take one of this will work too for you. Have like, what are they? Like mechanical figures that have like, tinted eyes and stuff. Yeah. You could take those pens and do the same thing. Just paint on the inside and just spread it with a brush. It'll look just like you airbrushed it. Yep, and then hit it with a hairdryer and let it dry. It'll look great. Yep. So that's another way of doing it. All right, we'll hit this one more time. We'll exaggerate it a little bit, give it a little bit more blue. I'm going to say that looks pretty good. All right, and what I'm going to do down here on the base of this is I'm going to add a little bit of bluing too. And I'm going to step this up and speed it up a little bit, guys. Sorry, I always work fast, so I apologize. You saw how I did it. So now we'll go with my favorite color, which is a purple. I love purple. It's my favorite color of all time. So anytime I have to do any bluing or purpling, I've got to put purple on there. Yeah. It's the best color. Like if I build race cars, like the modified cars, they always have the purple on the exhaust. Just looks badass. And the purple is the one you got to be careful with. Purple's dangerous. It'll go from looking really cool to looking like Gilbert Grape in about 2 seconds. It'll look horrible. It really builds up fast. So you got to be careful with it. All right. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take a look at this and be like, where do I want to put the purple? Do I want to put it right below the blue? I think for this one, I'll add a little streak of it just below the blue, just to show you a little differentiation between the color. You might be able to see that line starting to build up below it, the purple. You can see it in the lay right here. Okay. Now again, because I'm doing this, I'm going to exaggerate this purple a little bit. Then what we'll do is we'll get a little bit of purple down here on this ring on the base of the burner. The beauty of this, if you put an acrylic down, you hit it a little too hard, you just wipe it off. But you got to wipe quick because these paints will dry in about 3 seconds. Pass that around real quick and you see. This is very subtle. This is a SAR Iwata. There's only 2 types of brushes I use. I use a single action SAR and a dual action Eclipse. The Eclipse I have is a 3.5 needle on it. It's very good for lacquers. It works well with acrylics too, but you've got to watch the consistency of the acrylics. If you run them straight out of the bottle, even the airbrush ready ones like these Model Airs, they'll start clogging them up because a lot of clay content in these. That's why they're so color fast. But you got to run either a paint inhibitor or drying inhibitor. It'll help them coming up onto the tip. If not, you just sit there and pick away at the tip every once in a while and clean it. Make sure it's good. Huh?
Paint retardant.
Or paint retarder, yeah.
Flow improver too.
Or flow improver, either one. Yeah, they all make them. And again, I talked about this last time. If you're going to use a product, try and use one compatible with what you use. I'd recommend the manufacturer's one for stuff like that, for flow improvers and all that stuff. And again, because I'm doing this purposely, now I'm going to show you, I'm going to bounce right back here to the blue again. So we'll put a little bit more blue on. This is where you can go back and forth to try and achieve the look you're looking for. I'm using very, very little of this, so it's easy to do. And you'll notice I'm not cleaning the brush. I'm just waiting for it to turn blue, and then I'll start airbrushing it. Now, it doesn't work with everything. Now, if you're going to use like obviously a red or something, you're going to have to flush the brush pretty good, or you're going to end up with a problem. Now, we hit the bottom base of this, too, with some bluing and some purple, too. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work a tint in here. I talked about this soot color. This soot color is very, very similar to this sepia, this metal sepia they sell. You can see they're very similar. If you look at them in the light, they're like a burnt orange color. So I prefer this product, this MRP. This is Mr. Paint. These are all lacquers. It's amazing. Once you start tracing lines with it, it builds up slowly, and then suddenly you're like, whoa, it's got a lot of dimension. This is a lacquer thinner. I'm just using a little tiny bit of it to clean it out. Lacquers are easy to clean up, too. That's another thing. You can clean them really quickly if you use a small amount of it, Acrylics, a little bit different. All right, throw a little bit of this in here. And again, this is a tint. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to use this. So for this, we'll use a little bit of a dirt, kind of get a little bit of a dirt grunge color here going on. You mean the metal itself on a jet? It's thin. It's not thick. The petals on them, on the burners, are not thick. Yeah, you can see this now. We worked in a little bit of a sepia color into the barrel in the middle. So now you have 3 colors. You have a blue, a purple, and you've got like a burnt color, you would call it, something like that. So I'm going to stop there with this thing. I would do more than that, but I'm not going to waste any time. So what I'm going to do is we're going to put an oil wash on that when I do some oil washes here in a minute. So I'm going to save that, set it aside. Now I'm going to jump into this thing. So this is just a poor victim I found in my closet that I apparently had almost completely done. I just threw some primer on it. It looks great. I don't know. I can't remember starting. It's probably been in the closet for 10 years. It's a nice kit. It's an Edward airplane. It's actually very, very nice. Yeah, very nice aircraft. Yep. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a color on this real quick, and we'll talk about masking and stuff like that. So how easy it is to do masking. Very quick. I freehand all my camouflage, but you guys were wanting to talk about masking. I'm messy as hell when I airbrush. Joe knows this. I'm not clean. I don't care about being clean. My hands will be covered. I just don't like whatever. All right, so what we'll do is just throw a little bit of gray on this thing. Did something. Antagonize my sisters mostly, but like when you go to the dirty Chinese restaurant, you're like, Mommy, that almond's got legs. We'll just put a little bit more gray up. This thing doesn't crank real high. I like to run 40 to 50 PSI when I airbrush. So this thing's only pushing about 30. So yeah, it's a little bit different, but I'm adjusted to it. It's fine. It's got good coverage. So what you're looking for, like I've said this before, when you airbrush, you're looking for good flow, good coverage, and you want that paint to lay on real smooth. You want it to go on wet, but not, I'm trying to figure out a way to describe this. You want it to go on wet, but not soaking wet. You don't want it to be, look like it's running off the model. You want that paint to be smooth. Tell by looking at it. So that's what you're looking for. Is you can see all the panel lines, all the rivets still, it's on there thin, but it's covered in real. Yeah, it's only pushing 30, this one. It's a small compressor, which is fine. Well, like I said, I run 30 to 50. I'll run 40, 50. So I learned this from airbrush artists over the years because they run high pressure when they spray. You get much better spray patterns when you run high pressure. The atomization occurs a little bit slower than when you run low pressure. If you run low pressure and you try to run this far away from your model and your paint ain't mixed perfectly, it'll start drying as soon as it hits the model. And you end up with that pebbly texture on the model. Yep. So you want to run pressure and you want to make sure that paint's going on pretty solid. All right. So you won't hurt the airbrush. I've heard people with mist like, oh, 50 PSI, you'll hurt the airbrush. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? If you hurt an airbrush with 50 PSI, you need to send it back to the manufacturer and be like, what is this made out of, balsa wood? Again, this is just going to be real quick. So let's just pretend like this is like some Soviet bloc aircraft and it's got a, whatever scheme on it. So there's several ways you can mask. Is what I'm going to do here is just cut off an irregular piece like this. And now what I'm going to do is find the leading edge of this wing.
The gray's almost the same color as the bigger plastic.
It is really, yep. It's pretty close. And in no particular order, there's a camouflage block. Yep, took 3 seconds, right? So if you're looking at a diagram, and you know how it'll have a diagram of the camo? You could sit there and just freehand. Like if you look at a German aircraft in World War II, they all had the same camo if you look at them from up above. The Focke-Wulf will have the end of the wing will be patched in this dark gray because you put your light gray 74 color down first, right? The 75 will be blocked off here with a piece like this, and another piece along the wing root that goes up over the side of the fuselage. It's the same thing on the other side, and you just sit there and blast it if you want to make a template and rip it off. You can sit there and look at it and be like, oh, that curve looks good. It doesn't have to be exact. Doesn't have to be exact.
They were all painted in the field at the,
Well, at a factory, they actually held templates up and air gunned around them. Yeah, that's how they still do that today, I believe, with aircraft. I'm pretty sure that's what they do. So we'll put another small one back here. So I'm looking at this here. I want to put something small like right here. So we'll just cut like a little blob like this and be like, yep, that looks pretty close. Peel it up and we'll stick it on there.
looks good to me.
Yep, that's what we're doing. So we'll be like, yeah, maybe this thing lives right here.
What tape are you using?
So this is you can look at right here. It's actually crappy tape. The Tamiya tape is beautiful to peel. This is the best tape on the market. That's thinner than Tamiya tape. They sell it and package it like it's Tamiya tape. It ain't Tamiya tape. And that stuff likes to fold in on itself, and you sit there for an hour trying to get it to rip straight. But it's wide. That's why I love using this for homemade markings. Tracing markings over the top and cutting them out yourself off a decal. This is really good for that. This is too thick for it. Yep, it's too thick. So, okay. Let me get this green right here. And what we're going to do is we'll just real quickly hammer this thing with some green. Change the color of this plane a little bit. Yep, doesn't matter. The mask is going to protect it. It's good to go. We'll just build it right up here. Like I said, I'm learning. I don't use masks. I airbrush everything freehand. I do all my camo freehand. But you can do this. This works perfectly fine. All right, now we'll peel these off. And you'll see that you got a camo pattern. Just that quick, okay? You can do a whole plane like this in like 5 seconds. Now, one thing I don't like, this is just a pet peeve. If you look at a real aircraft and you get up close to it, that camo line isn't a hard line. It's got a fuzzy line. You can see where the two colors are. This, to me, is too crisp. I don't like this. So right away, I'm irritated on how crisp that line looks. To me, it looks too stupid. It looks like a toy. So right away, I'm going to be like, I don't like how this looks. So what I like to do is I'll sit here and get this line cutting pretty good. And I'll sit over here and I'll trace this thing and be like, you know what? I don't like how this looks. And I'll cut along this and try and make it a little bit fuzzier looking because I don't care for that hard line. To me, this just makes the camo look a little bit better when you do this than the hardline camo. And you can kind of see I did this very quick. I would touch this up a lot more, but you can get an idea. See how it softened the lines?
Yeah.
I did,
That looks a lot more realistic.
I did
Because in the
something.
field, they just paint it on with a brush.
In the field, they would be really sloppy. It'd be probably hard to imitate that in a model because I've seen paint finishes like in war where they just look like a mop through a bunch of color on a plane. Yeah, of course, in the field they would do that.
The Norman invasion strike, weren't they painted?
They were painted in the field because they told all the planes to put those on them for identification. So obviously they couldn't do it at a depot. They were in the fields. Yeah. That's how they do whitewash, like that cannon. I did that whitewash. That's what they did. They took whatever they had. I don't even know if it was like plaster and water and started putting it on there. Yes. Because it would wear off. Yeah, it would wear off quickly, 100%. So the reason I'm doing this is, remember we talked about post shading. I'm kind of throwing everything into one here. Some of the stuff we talked about last week, and do some real quick post shading. So you can see this green right here. If I start working this green with a little bit different shade, hopefully this will be light enough to show a little bit of difference. And again, I'm working super duper quick. I'm not worried about making this look perfect. This is just a demo. Yes, sir. It is not an illusion. Okay, you guys can kind of see some post shading. If you look at that, you can see a little bit of post shading there on the green. I'm lightening that green up a little bit. Yeah, it's good for just tinkering around like this. Yeah, if I'm doing like a scheme where I've got the little mottling like a World War II plane, I'll stick with my dual action because I can get really close to it and very, very quickly, do these little weird squiggles. It's you can do it with this too, but it's harder to get those little fine patterns. All right, Rob, let me hit that thing real quick again. Let me see if I can lighten it up a little bit farther here. And that's what you're trying to do. You don't want to go crazy. You don't want to just jump off the model, make it look ridiculous. Now I'm making this a little bit lighter on this pass, and you might even be able to see it in the light. The green, it's a little bit lighter this time, and I did that purposely. Like I said, I'm just trying to draw out some of this highlights here. And again, if you're not trying to be, Johnny Ace with your airbrush, you can do this in like a whole airplane in about 20 minutes. You can post shade the entire thing. It's very, very quick. And the idea is to just keep moving along. Don't worry about making a mistake, all that other stuff that people get hung up on. They're like, oh, I ruined my model. It's like I said, start over, paint it again. Start at the beginning with green and work your way back again. You're not gonna hurt it. It goes on so thin if you're doing the paint correctly, it's not gonna build up. So you're gonna be all right. Big no-no here. I don't have any light colored Tamiya, so I'm taking this gray and I'm gonna try and see if I can get Vallejo to mix with it. Now, if it turns into gelatin, you guys will know what I was talking about last time. When I was talking about, what's that? What happened? Yeah. Oh, that's nothing, dude. I got hundreds and hundreds of bottles of paint at home. Good Lord. You know that, Joe. It's bad when you have so many paints, you don't know what you have, and you go to the store and buy something, you come back, you find 8 bottles of it upstairs. You're like, what the fuck? You're like, oh yeah, I forgot I bought these. Yeah, there is. All right, so that rounds that out. And again, we'll do an oil wash on this to show you some accenting. This was just really quick. I did some gray post shading too. I think you can see the gray. Oh yeah. So you got your gray and your green post shaded right there. Again, this is super sloppy 101. If I was actually painting that, I would spend a little more time cutting in the lines and making it look really good. And probably post shade it 2 or 3 other times on some of the different panels. You can't go wrong with the MiG-21. MiG-21s have probably the most unique camouflage in the world. Every country flies different colors on them. Cuba has blue ones. Pakistan has brown and dark black ones. They're crazy. Yeah, those things are nuts. It makes it fun to model. That's why I did like 6 of them, because they all had different colors. I did the black and white one from the Czech Republic. I did the 4-tone green, sand, dark brown, and dark green from the Russians. Yeah, I love them. They're all really cool. They're just really awesome. Yeah, well then, they're boring, but they're still cool. The Russian planes are the coolest planes. I don't care what anybody says. Looks, if Darth Vader was flying in that era, he'd be flying a Russian plane. He wouldn't have flown an American birds. He'd have flown a Russian.
He would have turned around and flew out.
Yeah, he would have said, yep, exactly. So we did all this. Now, remember I used acrylics, right? So now we're going to go into a wash, and we'll do a wash on this too. Now you saw I did lacquers on this, right? So what I'm going to do real quick before I do any wash on this is the rule with lacquers. You remember what I told you about base coating, putting clear coat on lacquers. I'm going to use an oil on this. I can't put it over these lacquers. It's going to make them blues and stuff start to run or deteriorate. So we'll just throw a real quick, really exaggerated color on these petals right here. I call these tulips or petals. You can go back and hit them with like a very, very dry brush with like an aluminum, and you can sit there and just brush them, and it'll make all those little details pop, and everything will be dark in the background from the wash. So it's all about that 3D and that dimension. Now the rest of this thing, We can sit here in between these petals and we can throw a wash. Whatever works for you. There is no rule on consistency for wash. If it's not a wash, you're oil painting. That's my rule. Because then you're basically putting oils on, which work fine too. I mean, you can put oils on and you can put an oil down and hit it with a dry brush and get it to spread. And then if you want to, you can thin it again by putting turpentine. Yeah, you can see the wash right here. It's on it.
Solvent evaporates. And you
Yep.
very little-
Anywhere you have valleys like this at the base of this thing, you're going to want to put a pretty liberal amount of oils and just kind of let them, the capillary action, let it do its thing. Yes, exactly. Just let it pool. It's almost, oils are self-leveling, unlike acrylics. Acrylics work well as a wash too, but the key to using an acrylic, if I was going to use an acrylic like this, I'd have to have a spray mist bottle and keep it wet, and then just touch the color and let it run into it. And you've got to keep it wet. If you don't keep it wet, acrylics will dry and you'll get tide marks everywhere. Yep, oils won't. Well, that's why I just use water. You can put a little dish soap in it. You guys can take a look at that. Just hold it from the base. It's wet. I'm going to cheat and I'm going to hit that with a hair dryer and I'm going to dry it real quick and I'll show you a dry brush on that.
Yeah,
Yep.
those oils work great when you do that.
Yep. Yeah, they are. They're nice. Now I use, like I said, I use oils on all kinds of crap. I love using oils. They're fantastic. Now, what I'm doing here is not a broadcast wash. You can do a broadcast wash. I call it a lazy wash, where you take a big brush and just slather it into all the detail and then wipe it off. The problem when you're doing small models, if you're using big models like Dave does studio models, if you're using a huge submarine, I could broadcast wash that because it's big enough I can get stuff out of all the crevices that I don't want it in. On a model like this, you start running into, you can't get it out of there. All of a sudden you have these dark areas everywhere that are over dramatically shadowed where you don't want that. Instead, you want to be able to take a pin brush and just run a fine line, I call it a pin wash, along those. And if it dries and you don't like it, you can reinforce it again. Right. So a large model, you can absolutely put just a big broadcast wash and wipe it off. Did you guys know you can accelerate oils by doing this with a hairdryer? You just don't want to get it real close. You just want to keep it back a little bit. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Not too hot. All right, that's pretty good. So now, like I was telling you guys, I'm going to do something to really exaggerate this color. We're going to take aluminum, which is super duper bright. This thing isn't aluminum, obviously, but I don't care. You're getting a theme there that I don't care. So we're going to take and we're just going to make this thing look a little bit exaggerated. We'll get a brush and just barely. All right, so let's just go ahead and get some of this aluminum. Work it off this brush to where it's bare. Again, this is so bright when I put it on there. If I have it too heavy and start painting it on there, that thing's going to look ridiculous. So even when it looks like you don't have anything coming off the brush, that's enough. You can already see, look at the tulips on the very end where I just hit them with this aluminum. You can see the wash in the background. So you can see all the veins now on the fins. And that's a very dry brush. There's hardly any paint coming off the thing. Again, if it's just too wet and you do that, it's just going to look silver and you're going to be like, shit. Then what do you do then if you do that? You ain't even got to. At that stage, you can take a dark wash and just run it back in there and let it shadow itself again. Yep, you can correct that with a wash. Yep, so, yeah, but silvers can be dangerous. Like you can over highlight something with silvers really quickly because it's once you weather it, you don't realize the metal now is so subdued, and then you'll sit there and take a brush with dry brush silver and be like, holy crap, and everything pops off of it like it's sunlight's hitting it, and it doesn't look good. Yeah, create your shadow areas, exactly. That's exactly what a wash is for, to pull that shadows out. Now, you could either love this or hate this. I'm not necessarily sure I love this, but what I'm going to do is just start hitting these high areas with this dry brush, and we'll get these little ridges on these tulips on this burner. Kind of you can tell it's on the ground because it doesn't have black smoke flying out. That is aluminum, which is super bright. I did it purposely because it's the brightest color you can find for a silver. It's an acrylic. Yep. Yeah, you don't want to dry brush with lacquers or anything like that. You're going to want to use acrylics for dry brushing. That's the only thing I think you can use. Can you think any other paint you could use besides an acrylic? Well, oils. Sorry, oils work good too. Joe knows this from Armor. Oils are very good for dry brushing too. Yep, same technique. Get the brush almost completely dry, and it'll start picking up on edges. Yeah, oils are really good too. They dry really subdued looking. They look really good. Yeah, forgot about oils. Thank you, Dave. Yep, acrylics. Yeah, they're an acquired taste. They have to do the dry brushing. I use acrylics and oils too for dry brushing. Yep, yeah. Like I had a brain fart. Yes, I do use oils for dry brushing. Yep. They really work. Where I find oils are superior is if you're dry brushing like greens and yellows. For whatever reason, they look better than acrylics do. It's like they have softer color tone to them when you're using those type of colors. So that's pretty much like a finished burner. That would be something I would consider pretty good. Now, what I would probably do if I was going to use that burner is put another wash on it. A real fine detail wash with like a 0-0 brush. Really start tracing very fine lines to get a little bit more shadow, but that's passable for an exhaust, for an aircraft. So, and again, you can see it. You can see it contrasting just next to this black one. It gets you the idea of what I'm talking about. All right. So now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a pin wash on this detail on this aircraft here. If you saw this aircraft's panel lines, they are really fine. It's got very fine rivets. Very fine detail. You probably would choke if you tried to use a broadcast wash all over it. It'd probably be hard to get it all off around these raised areas. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead in here with when I do this now is I'll sit here and get this ready where I'm feeling comfortable with the oil, and I'm look at my lines. Like I see this first panel line runs all the way down the plane along this leading edge. So I'll start with that one, and I'll sit here and trace this detail with it. And it's okay if it wicks over the top because you want that staining look over the edges. So when it dries, you're not going to see it very much, but it'll be just enough of a little halo of oil. And again, you can make multiple passes with this. And the idea is to use a controlled wash. And you can already see it's starting to bleed over. That'll dry off and it'll look like a hint of dirt around them panels. Yep, I didn't show you that tonight but that is another technique that I will do is take a tint like a sepia or that soot color, and I will trace these panel lines with the airbrush, and then I will come in with an oil. But you can also just use an oil. You don't have to do that step I was telling you with the airbrush. You can use an oil and get a real nice result. And again, you make a mistake, like I missed a panel line, you just wipe it, because what it'll do is it'll stay in the crevice, and the rest of it will come off on your finger. So, yep. Really, it's super duper easy to work with. Lots of round shapes and all kinds of stuff on this airplane. Again, moving really quick. I apologize, guys. I'm trying to cover a lot of stuff real quickly. So I'm not trying to make this look all beautiful. Even though I will admit, it does look pretty good.
So when you do this,
Actually, it looks really nice. Nope, this will dry flat. It'll dry flat. It all depends. So that's another thing. You'll have to experiment with different thinners. If you use lighter fluid, it'll dry perfectly flat for a thinner. If you use mineral spirits, sometimes it leaves a little bit of sheen. I don't know why. This artist oil that I'm using, I got from the art place over here, Jerry's. I can't remember who makes it, but it's a high quality and it's a quick drying art oil, and it dries almost dead flat. See these raised edges on here? I'm going to put a wash along these edges and down the seam of the body, okay? And then I'll pass this around. You guys can look at it. So I'll let this wash run around the edge here, because what I'm trying to do is accent anywhere that any soot could build up, or dirt or shadow. Okay, while this wash is drying, I'll pass this around. I think you can clearly see what the wash, and it'll fade out. As that dries, you'll lose a lot of that, where it looks like it's wringing out moisture. It'll evaporate away, and it'll just leave like a dirt, little stain look around the outside of the thing. And the beauty of this is if you think it needs to be darker, you come back the next day because it'll settle down. You can put another application of it on. Mm-hmm. Or maybe just leave the application on the leading edge control surfaces where it might be a little heavier dirt than in the main panel areas. Yeah, so you can do it either way. This thing here, this is fun to weather too. So I did this last week. This metal color right here, we can just take a wash real quick. Trace along these edges right here on this thing. Yep, all around these little raised areas. Yeah, the wash, dude. This is probably my favorite part of modeling, is doing a wash. I know you like doing them too when you do detail work, because it makes everything pop. Like you do all that hard work and then you put a wash in it, you're like, that's why I did all the detail work on the models, because of that.
toy to model.
From toy to model, exactly. Like this bottom, you can see already where I'm putting it around all these areas, starting to raise. You see this bottom lip with this detail? It just looks kind of plain right now, so what I'll do is I'll run a wash here. along it. Doesn't even, like I said, I don't even have to be careful with it. It's still going to make it 100%. Yeah, the detail stuff, all the detail stuff. And again, I don't like it. I'll wipe it off. No big deal. Sir, you can get them anywhere. You can buy a wash anywhere. You can buy oil washes anywhere. You can buy oils anywhere. Don't care what kind of oil you use. You don't have to use ABT stuff from AK. You can use Grumbacher, any stuff. It doesn't matter. It all works. You can pass that around and see where I did this oil wash in here on the aluminum color. How's it looking now, Joe? Is it drying?
Oh, yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's all dried up now. Yeah, and you can see it dried dead flat.
Yeah.
You don't have to put a coat over the top of that. If you want to put a flat coat on your model after, get rid of a sheen from a decal, obviously, yeah. But what I tend to do is I don't like to use, I should be careful saying this. You can broadcast a flat coat all over something. The way I model is like that, smooth enough, I'll put a decal right on it. And if what I'll do is take 2000 and just hit the area with the decal, and I'll put the decal right on it. And then if I see the sheen is a little bit too much of the decal, I'll just hit the decal with flat coat. I won't hit the whole model. Because one of the things that a flat coat is a filter coat, whether people want to, it could be the best flat coat ever where you're like, I don't lose any detail. You are losing a little bit of detail with a flat coat, even really good flat coats. So if you've put a lot of real subtle shading and you put a big heavy flat coat on there, you're going to look and be like, it doesn't look so good on the edge anymore where I put all that shading. And you may have to hit an airbrush and go back and re-highlight it. I've had to do that before. Well, so normally people like to put a glass coat down like this before they decal. And the reason they do that is because it gives them a smooth surface if they're worried about their paint. And it also it gets rid of any silvering if you have crappy decals where you get that silvering look on them. Yeah, so they like to do that. I just sit there and work. What I'll do is I use really aggressive decal sets like that stuff made by Walther's Salva set, which will eat a decal up. But I'll put it down and just let it sit, and it'll eat itself right into the finish. And you don't have any problem. And if you ever have bubbles on them, that's what X-Acto knife's for. If you have any areas that are silvering, you just sit there and go like this, poke holes in it, put solvent back on it, it'll pull it right down. Thank you, bud. Yeah, it looks like a horseshoe crab. I think that's where they got the inspiration for this thing, actually. Yep. Yeah. Anybody got anything else they want to go over? We talked about bluing, talked about doing some quick masking and some post shading, some oil washing. Oh, another one too. So here, you guys talked about enamels right here. I'll take an enamel out real quick. This is a Tamiya. This is a Tamiya wash. So one thing I will say about Tamiya, their washes are too thick. They're thick. So use an enamel. An enamel tends to be really opaque when you put it on. It's very, very dark. Like this oils are subtle looking. So sometimes I don't mind having a real dark wash. Like you can see how black that is compared to this oil. It's like, that's just true black. So to me, it's too dark. So what I'll do is I take a thinner and I will thin this down with an enamel thinner. I just don't like how dark it is. And then I'll flow it on the exact same way. So I'll show you right here. We'll do some of this white. And you'll see this is going to be much darker. Like if I put it around these bolt heads, it's very dark. It's a lot more opaque. I'll trace the top of this line with it. You can see right here. Yep, and this is a diluted panel line. If you put this on at full strength, that'll look like a black line, when it literally, which is fine. If you want it to look like that because you're really trying to get a shadow out, then that's perfectly fine. It's all in your modeler's taste. Yep. But if you dilute it like this and you use it, actually works pretty well. And enamels, like I said, they dry pretty quick and they're pretty color fast enamel.
It's probably really useful when you have
You can see it on that white.
kind of inside the model.
Yeah. If you want to make a true, real dark shadow, the black is very good. They make a brown and they make a gray too.
I think they make like two.
Yeah, they make other. They're all good, and they're good to have in your tool bag because they all are different the way they go on. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Is there a criteria to choose whether you want to use the enamel or oils?
Nope. One thing enamels are really, really good for And I'll tell you the difference. So say you have a surface that's riddled with like little rivets, like rivet holes, like on a wing of an airplane. It has like over exaggerated rivets, and you're like, I really like how those rivets look. I would put an enamel wash on them if you really want those rivets to stand out. I'd sit there and go through, and if you have any smudge, just wipe it off with enamel thinner. You'll be able to see every freaking rivet. Where if you put an oil over those rivets, it'll be more subdued looking. Yeah, but these are more color fast, the enamels are, and you'll see them. I see a lot of guys do that on aircraft. It has a lot of detail on them, and you could really see it. And that's up to you as a modeler whether you want that detail to really pop out or to be more subdued. Like to me, this is a more subdued for an aircraft because you're talking about something small in scale. If I was to make these lines all real dark black, it goes like Dave said, going from a toy to a model to something that looks like a prototype. So if you start making things look overly dramatic, it looks like a toy. Yeah, it looks like the toys you buy in a store that somebody spends 5 minutes putting stuff on. What's that?
Tamaya, is that a name or just the thinner you used?
These are acrylics.
I mean, for the wash. The wash is.
Oh, that wash, that's an enamel.
It is an enamel.
It's enamel. So again, I tend to use acrylics because of ease and speed, because I don't have to use a medium layer over the top to put an oil wash or an enamel. But again, if I sprayed like you saw me do this burn can, right? What I do, I put an acrylic barrier layer over it and then put an oil wash on it, and it didn't hurt it at all. It works perfectly fine. So yeah, it's all personal choice. It's up to you. It's really it's like I said, you have to experiment. You have to make mistakes. You have to. Don't worry about taking your model you spent 2 years perfecting and doing an experiment on it. I'm not saying that. But take something out that you don't care about. A fuselage of an old plane you're never going to build and use it as a test mule.
Some of these old
Yes.
Lindbergh kits,
Yeah, some of the free stuff that this guy keeps bringing in. Perfect test mules for airbrushing. That's what you got to do. You just got to practice a lot. Yep.
respect the pig.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. You guys got anything else you want to see me do? Any more stuff? Any more sponge chipping stuff? Anything at all? Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I did. Actually did the sponge technique last time. That's what all this is.